What would you do if you found out your partner was cheating? How would you respond? How would you react if they attempted to place all the responsibility on the person they were seeing? Well, I experienced precisely that. When I discovered that my wife was having an affair, she attempted to blame her affair partner for everything rather than take responsibility for it herself. However, I wasn't going to give her a free pass. I therefore made sure her family was aware of the whole situation. Let's just say things didn't work out exactly as she had hoped. My wife had an affair, but she falsely accused her boyfriend. I exposed her by kicking her to the curb. I never imagined that I would be sharing a tale. All I want is for this to end so I can resume my headache-free life. To give you some context, I am an architect in my late 30s. I was brought up by a single mother. She made every effort to see that I completed high school and was accepted to college. We didn't have much, but I owe my mother everything because she worked hard to provide my siblings and me with a respectable existence. That, I believe, also gave me a tremendous desire to always act like a responsible man. I would never voluntarily decide not to be present for my wife and kids. In any case, I've always believed that the best wives are those from lowly origins, most likely due to my upbringing and my mother's behavior during my father's lifetime. I therefore believed I had found someone who shared my mom's understanding of life's challenges when I met my wife, Danny, short for Daniela, who was raised similarly. I used to believe that Danny was a wonderful woman. She has always had a close relationship with her parents, and I have tried to help them out by giving them things whenever I can. They still reside in a modest hamlet and a small village, and I always ensured they had everything they needed. 4 years have passed since our marriage. Overall, life has been fantastic. Although we haven't had children yet, it wasn't for lack of trying. I now have a few pals from my time in college. Together, we all studied architecture. We go to this elegant architecture cocktail party every 3 months or so, organized by a mutual acquaintance. The routine has remained consistent. We go, network, mingle with possible customers, and enjoy ourselves. We've established a practice whereby my pals bring their spouses around. However, something needed to be corrected at one of these gatherings. I observed that Danny took a little longer than usual to return from the restroom. To be honest, she has a tendency to briefly disappear at parties, but it's typically not a big concern. But I really needed her this time. I wanted to introduce our special guest to everyone at the celebration, but she was nowhere to be seen. I asked a few individuals if they had seen her because I was angry, but nobody knew where she was. I decided to go outside to call someone and possibly take a break. I noticed her and a guy in the yard's corner as I was strolling around the garden. I couldn't see their faces because it was a little dark where they were, but her clothing was bright enough to tell it was her. Their posture gave the impression that they had been engaged in some activity, though it was unclear what it was. The moment I yelled her name, the man ran away without turning around. I went crazy. I rushed over and demanded to know why. She broke down in tears and told me that she didn't see the man, that he had grabbed her, and that she was about to leave when I arrived. She went completely crazy over it. She kept expressing her fear and her desire to return home. I took her home and put her to bed, as any kind spouse would do. However, I couldn't eliminate the uneasy sensation I had all night. I didn't sleep well enough. Thank heavens it was Sunday the following day. I urged her to explain what had happened again as soon as I woke up. She remained true to her narrative, claiming that the man approached her while she was taking care of herself in the garden. I mentioned calling the police since I don't take assault lightly. She completely freaked out at that point. All day long she pleaded with me not to call the cops. She claimed that she was already feeling embarrassed enough and that she didn't want to endure that type of attention, having to repeatedly tell people about the abuse. I couldn't let it go, so I gave in and told her I wouldn't call the cops. We're talking about my wife, whom I was in love with. After discussing it with my 2 buddies, we decided to try to identify the man. My friend Mike, if you will, made a valid point. He stated, "Most victims would want justice. I'm still determining whether it is accurate, but it seemed plausible. If that was, why did she object so strongly to me pursuing justice for her?" My instincts went into overdrive at that point. We asked the party host if he had a list of attendees. I was merely looking for this person, but I told him it was for networking. After he handed us the list, I began looking up the names online to find a face that matched the man I had seen that evening. But there is yet to be a chance. In my mind, everything was too hazy, and there wasn't much light in the corner where I saw them. Then I realized I would need to be much brighter to solve the problem. I am an architect, correct? I, therefore, made up a reason to show Danny some pictures of people, claiming that I was working on a new project and wanted to introduce her to the teams I would be collaborating with. I added the pictures of the persons I was least sure about to the people I had ruled out as possible suspects. It didn't appear like any of them were the ones because I didn't see her react strangely while I went through them. This is when the exciting part begins. The event host contacted me to inquire about my networking experience. I told the truth about what had transpired because I could no longer maintain the lie. He told me that he had CCTV footage of the outside of his house, which really shocked him. He asked me why I hadn't told him the truth sooner. For security purposes, he had placed cameras throughout the garden area. It seems that no one really notices them at the gatherings because they are nicely camouflaged. By this time, my heart was racing. My two friends and I walked to his apartment and viewed the video together. Although there was a blind spot where I discovered Danny and the man, the cameras did show her going to the garden by herself, followed shortly after by the man. When I arrived, we also witnessed the scene where he ran away. The benefits of purchasing cameras superior to those found in every mall were evident on his face. We matched then. He showed his face to one of the men who were invited. The new guest at the party, who had only been to these gatherings roughly twice before, was a senior partner at the host's firm. That someone of that rank would do such a thing was really disgusting. But these crimes don't have a profile, do they? Using the list's contact information, we located and challenged him. After some convincing, he eventually confessed everything. Unfortunately, I went completely crazy when he refused to confess to a crime. This guy and Danny had been dating for a few months. They were having an affair. After exchanging numbers and meeting at one of the earlier parties, things took a turn for the worse. He knew too much about Danny for that to have been the case, but at first, I felt he might have been lying to attempt to hide his tracks. I have yet to discuss this with Danny. Only my coworkers and I know it. I'm here venting to strangers, hoping they can advise me on what to do next. If it were up to me, I would attend marital counseling and avoid allowing a mistake to lead a marriage to fail. However, my buddies advised me to cheat back and then file for divorce. Of course, divorce is a possibility, but I want to make sure I manage things properly. I'm not sure if it's worth the effort to cheat back. That's not strong enough for me. Being a kind guy doesn't always translate into receiving the honesty and respect you deserve, and sometimes it takes a startling incident like this to clarify that. Your entire world has been flipped upside down. Therefore, it's acceptable to feel unsure of what to do now. Start by putting your own feelings and limits first. It's acceptable not to be the understanding partner all the time. You have to stand up for yourself sometimes. Danny was still grinning and talking to her parents without any suspicion. I calmly explained that I had proof that I had found out about her affair. I wanted to show them something. I put it off as something fun to share, claiming it was a video from one of the parties we attended. Unbelievably, Danny was grinning as they gathered around him. I started by playing the CCTV footage. Danny entered the garden and you could see the man trailing her. Their features briefly displayed bewilderment, but that was only the beginning. I went on to the video where the man came clean about everything, including the lies in the affair. I connected my phone to their ancient TV to ensure that everyone could see and hear everything I said. Danny's face turned white. She appeared to want to vanish into the ground. Her parents merely sat there in awkward quiet when I turned to face them. Her dad's cheeks flushed and her mother began to cry. The amusing thing I recall, though it wasn't funny then, is that Danny started to stutter. She began to stammer as she tried to speak. She was yapping about how it was an error and meant nothing when she eventually pulled herself together. Her own parents, however, didn't appear to be persuaded. I told her it was over, right in front of her parents. After learning of her infidelity, I pulled out the divorce documents I had prepared. I gave them to her father with gentleness. At that point, chaos ensued. I'm not sure if it was her or her mother, but someone was sobbing uncontrollably. While I was heading to the guest room to retrieve my belongings, Danny was kneeling, pleading with me not to proceed, stating that she would stop at nothing to make it right. Her mother also begged me to change my mind, saying everyone makes errors. However, I had already decided. I calmly explained to her mother that I had provided for their family. Danny was repaying me by slinking around with a man she had met at a party. I assured them that I had always been faithful and that I would never be able to forgive her for betraying me. There was mayhem. Her mother even took hold of my arm while crying and claiming that I was their son and that we were related. Oddly enough, only her father appeared at ease. Before I departed, he shook my hand. In retrospect, I'm pleased with my behavior. I didn't scream or even lose my temper. I simply stated the facts before leaving, remaining composed throughout the situation. If they wanted to provide me any information, I instructed her to phone the number listed on the document for my lawyer. I had to travel to the closest motel and spend the night there because I had to leave that evening. I got up early, went to a cafe for coffee because I knew everyone would see me, and then drove home. I packed Danny's belongings and had them delivered to her that day. On everything, I blocked her. I also had all of the house's locks changed by a locksmith. Before they went to court, we were able to settle the terms. Do you recall how I talked about my mother and my longtime lawyer? The lawyer provided me with invaluable advice as I started accumulating assets here and there. Everything I own, including my car, a few properties, and the house, is in my mother's name. Danny was unaware of this. Except for the money accounts, which are in my name, to be fair, she believed that everything was divided equally between us. We decided to give her a lump sum payment, but as I had no interest in seeing her at all, there was no alimony. Because she cheated and everything, I wanted her to receive nothing, but the legal system is nearly always biased in favor of the woman. In any case, she has nothing to worry about. The majority of my money was still mine. She was unable to claim any significant portion of my money. Time and time again, my mother saved my life. We learned previously that the man she was having an affair with was also married, which just made things worse for her. The guy's wife was contacted by the mutual acquaintance, who typically throws those parties to let her know what happened because, in his opinion, it was the proper thing to do. I was overjoyed when he informed me. I didn't need to do anything for the affair partner to receive his suitable desserts. In addition to kicking him out of the house, she is also pursuing a divorce. The man has apparently been cheating on his wife for years, so Danny wasn't his first fling. That will significantly impact him because his wife is pursuing him, which is not good advertising for his company. Danny has returned to living with her parents. She had reportedly been devastated ever since the incident occurred. She stopped working a few years ago because I was assisting her, so I wonder whether she could find employment. I've heard that she's not doing well financially or emotionally. Living in that small village with her parents is basically where she started. However, given everything that has transpired, it is difficult to feel sorry for her. I'm doing much better now that I've moved on with my life. In retrospect, I'm pleased with the way I handled the entire circumstance. I ensured she was held accountable for her conduct and didn't let my rage get the better. I can now concentrate on myself and move on since everyone involved received what they were due. She, however, is now on her own. At least in her small town, I'm sure word has spread. I sincerely hope it did. She will undoubtedly become the town's talk, not in a positive manner. This should satiate their appetite because there is usually little drama over there. I have no pity. She is now suffering because she threw everything away for an affair. I'm going on with my life, concentrating on my career and spending more time with my mother and other family members who were impressed by my handling of the situation. In any case, it is the current situation. At last, I'm beginning to feel liberated. Thank you for staying and viewing the video. Never be afraid to end a relationship with an unfaithful woman. Please give this a thumbs up if you liked it or found it relatable. Remember to ring the bell and click the subscribe button to ensure you don't miss any more updates. I'll see you in the next one.